Well, who would have thunk it? We've had another huge CME off the left side of our sun. If any of these are to go Earth facing, they're going to be very detrimental to our electric grid and our planet in general. Another huge flare, no missing time. Went through it all. They're showing you the flare. I guess they don't think it's substantial. It actually is started here, 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 here. Most of the ejecti is coming out of here and here, the northwestern and southwestern corners of our star, our sun. Another very large CME. Moving on to Lasco C2, we can see how large the ejecti was. We can also see these rocks we've been following through the atmosphere, through the galaxy, through the solar system for days now. Not quite sure where they're located, but this CME was substantial, and it lasted quite some time. It's about a 20-hour CME. So I did want to point out these rocks also moving through Lasko C2 that we've been noticing for days.
In that clip, James manages to get barely 5% of the information correct, and in the next clip we show it is so outrageous it borders on fear porn.
But remember, folks, if something like this is to go off Earth facing, if you will, it's an extinction level event in most all cases, unless you're living in an iron underground bunker, which is, I guess, where they're all headed.
What we'll do, we'll go over each statement that James makes one by one, and then we'll look to see how much reality there is between what James says and what actually happened.
Well, who would have thunk it? We've had another huge CME off the left side of our sun.
So if we spot a CME, the first page to come and have a quick look to see what's going on is the Cactus. It's a software package for computer-aided CME tracking. This is operated by the Solar Influences Data Centre, which is at the Royal Observatory of Belgium. So here we can see the CME in question. On the list it's CME number 24, and it was captured on the 24th of February 2021, and it took off from the sun at 0936. You will notice in the picture that this is the occulter, so the sun is in the center of the occulter. Now on the picture that you will see that James showed you, the time is later than the 0936. Reason being that the center edge of the sun is approximately just where the A is. So the time it takes the CME to leave the surface of the sun to reach the edge of the occulter is why you get the difference in time. So it actually left the sun at 0936. DT is the duration of takeoff, so it took 4 hours for the CME to leave the sun. The only other figures that pardon me, are worth noting at this time are the velocities. So the CME had a minimum velocity of 103 kilometers per second and a maximum of 281 kilometers per second, which gives us a mean velocity of 186. That is a very minor CME, and it's certainly nothing like James described it.
If any of these are to go Earth facing, they're going to be very detrimental to our electric grid and our planet in general.
Fortunately for ourselves, it was a very minor CME and would be very unlikely, even if Earth-facing, to push us anywhere but into unsettled conditions. And that's all.
Another huge flare, no missing time.
when it comes to checking what flares there are, I would normally go to this particular site. It's the Solar and Astrophysics Laboratory at Lockheed Martin, and I would check the GOES 16 X-ray flux, and each of these up here, the numbers represent a different flare. We have had quite a number over the last 2 days, but as you can actually see, the largest one over this period is this one. So if we follow it up and click on the number, it will bring up the data, and as you can see, the data for that particular flare was just a B9.5. So I mean, to describe that as a large flare, it's a bit of an exaggeration, let's say.
It actually is started here, 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 here.
It certainly did not start here, here, here and here. As previously explained, these are actually solar coronal streamers, nothing more.
And it lasted quite some time. It's about a 20-hour CME.
This was certainly not a 20-hour CME. It was actually between 3 and 4 hours.
So I did want to point out these rocks also moving through Lasco C2 that we've been noticing for days.
Not rocks, James. They are actually background stars, and the one in particular is M22. If you're going to present a space weather report, there are certain things you should do, and one of them is to actually give people verification of the facts. So the following gives you some sort of an idea of what you should include.
Right, now let's go and investigate a possible CME. This is Lasco C3. Bottom left hand corner is the timestamp showing the 26th of February 2021. In the centre, the white circle is an approximation of the size of the Sun. The blue circle is the occulter, and this is the occulter pylon or arm, whichever you prefer to call it. The little dots you see are background stars. The light rays coming out of the Sun are actually solar coronal streamers, which I explained about earlier. And over here is Venus. If I start the movie, you will notice a slight eruption here. Now we can't tell anything other than there has been a small eruption. So the next place to go, we can go and check the C2 images at the Soho Movie Theatre. And if we play that, it gives us a clearer view of what has actually happened. So there was actually a CME, but yet again we don't know anything about it. We don't know its speed, we don't know its direction. So the next place to go and actually look for any sort of verification is the Heliophysics event registry, and we can see on the 26th there were 2 CMEs. This one was at 254 kilometers per second, 0748, so that's not the one that James was showing. Here we are, 297 kilometers per second, 46 degrees, that's the distance there, and a position angle of 272 degrees, which is from solar north in an anti-clockwise direction. That's your 272 degrees. So yeah, this is actually confirmed that there were CMEs on the 26th. We can then go to SolarSoft and check the Discover BZ model, and we can actually see that there is the CME in question. So if we click on that, it will bring up a little model that comes from Cactus, which we will now go to now in a bigger version. So when you come to the Cactus site, this is the date and the different CMEs that have happened in the month. This is the CME in question. So here we are, we can actually see that the CME leaves the western side of the sun 26th of February 2021 at 07:48, and its liftoff period was 4 hours. The only other figures that you need to note really are the minimum velocity, the maximum velocity, and the median velocity, and these are all in kilometers per second. So yeah, there's no doubt that it was a CME. So now we need to actually look and see what other information we can get, because so far we have no idea of its direction. So if we come over to the SEEDS website, this is the Solar Eruptive Event Detection System, and this is operated by the George Mason University Space Weather Lab, known as SEEDS. So as we can see, this is the Lasco C2. We've already seen this picture, and this is a different image giving us a slightly different view. So we know that there was the CME, we don't know its direction yet, and the way we can try and find out something about the direction is this is SOHO, which is positioned here, and the Stereo A spacecraft is positioned over here. So if we actually go to stereo, we can get to see a partial side view and try and find out which way the CME is heading. So to do that, we go to the beacon table and find the date. So here we are now at stereo ahead, and we can see from looking from stereo, stereo is here, Earth is here. So we can see there was a CME, and we are going to feel some of the effects from that, as it was partially Earth directed. The only other place we can go and get some sort of information is from SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory, and here is the sunspot that the CME is left from. So if we look at this, yeah, you can see it there. So we know from looking at this that that has confirmed that it is actually Earth facing, although it does actually look like it might actually go slightly to the west and to the north of Earth, but we should feel some of the effects. And that's basically, we've gone from looking at C3, which doesn't really give you much information apart from the fact that there has actually been some sort of an event, and until we've come all the way to SDO, which confirms that it was partially Earth directed. And that's how you actually should put together a space weather forecast. You give people the details and as much data as possible. The other things that we might want to know about from Lasco are what we actually see. What are the background stars? What planets and objects are we actually seeing in the field of view? So if you go to the Lasco website and you come over to the science information, we can look at the Lasco Sky Map. Now we can actually set this to whenever we want, so we'll set it to February. We are now at the 27th, and show map. This shows an approximation of the stars that we can actually see in the view of Lasco C3. This is the ecliptic, and so you can actually more or less look at this and see what stars are passing the field of view. Obviously it doesn't show everything, but it gives you a good approximation. The other thing that we've noticed from World News Report today is there has been some conjecture as to what the planet is that has appeared in the C3 field of view. So if we go back and we can come down to the science information and click on Lasco C3 planet transits. Okay, this shows you the different transits of planets crossing the field of view. If you come down planets and comets and click on 2021 transits, we can actually see that Venus entered the field of view of Lasco C3 on February the 22nd and will carry on moving from right to left until April the 25th, when it will leave the field of view. Okay, and at some point on its journey it will cross the C2 point of view. So there's no doubt about it, that is the planet in the C3, and this is how you actually confirm things. You don't guess, there's no need to guess. If there is anything else you would like to know about Lasco, please just make a comment and I'll try and go over it. But basically, just come to the website, click on the links and just follow your nose, see what happens. That's how everybody learns.
If you want a professional space weather forecast, then I would suggest going to see Dr. Tamitha Skov at the Space Weather Woman channel. She is a professional. Alternatively, you could try a channel where Mark Wages at Wages World will give you space weather reports in a more responsible manner, and quite entertaining too. Pop along.
And you know, we need to be able to call the CME what it is. We can't over exaggerate this. At some levels, I almost want to underplay it a little bit. That way when there is a big one, people listen. Okay, that's the biggest problem I'm seeing right now. Is there, you know, we got people out there. Let me show you this real quick. I'm going to take you back to what I seen. And my jaw about hit the floor when I seen this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And it was just so irresponsible for somebody to say stuff like this. Okay, now this was back on the 19th even, guys. Look. That's a slow mover right there. I'm trying to find the one. Yeah, I think this was the one. This is back on like the 18th. Now this one blew off towards the backside. And somebody showed this on Lasco C3, and they called it an X-class flare that was extinction level event. Do you guys understand what that means when somebody says that about this? I mean, really? An extinction level event. Wow. And that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm telling you guys that because I care about you guys. I don't want you guys to fall for that bull crap, because that's what that is. That's just solid BS. When somebody makes a grand statement like that, and they even use the wrong name, it was a CME. It wasn't even a flare. There's a difference, and this person didn't even know it.
Hopefully now when somebody says something to you, you'll be able to fact check for yourself. It is important that you never take other people's word on anything, especially on YouTube. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you will go to the Lasco website and learn a little bit about it. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and it's always great to see you leaving comments. Thank you.